Hello, I am Tracy Akins, Technical Training Manager with Time America Incorporated. Our topic for today, XactTime Mobile Administration. That's right, XactTime has an app for your smartphone, and most importantly, geo-tracking is now available. In this session, we will learn how to effectively configure and manage XactTime Mobile Administration. So let's get started. Remember, to access XactTime Mobile Administration, you must be a user with full access in the software. So here, I'll go ahead and log in. And again, I am logging in as someone with full access, and that will be an administrator. Key in my password, and now we're all logged into the software. XactTime Mobile Administration can be found under the Admin tab, Configuration, and in the System section. If it is not available, please have the administrator check your feature access template to verify the access has been given. Once in the XactTime Mobile Administration, so here we'll click the link, and you will find there are 3 tabs. The very first tab is our punch zones, the second tab, our global settings, and the third tab, our punch log. The punch zones allow the restriction of employees to specific locations by time of day and day of the week. Our global settings contain the general information needed for an employee to use XactTime Mobile, along with the ability to email that information. The punch log displays the last 100 punches created or attempted by users of XactTime Mobile. Let's take a closer look at each tab, starting with the punch zones. The punch zones area, it does allow you or offer the ability to restrict employees to specific locations and times. When you open the punch zone area, if there are any pre-existing punch zones, you'll see those listed here. To the left of any pre-existing punch zone, you will have a pencil. The pencil icon is your edit. So here we can click edit, and it will bring up all of the details that will allow us to change or edit the existing punch zone. You'll also notice to the right there is an icon of a trash can, and this is our delete option. So if we want to delete a punch zone, we'll also have that ability. Now the great thing, if you notice, if you take your mouse and you hover over a specific zone, the map over to the right is actually going to highlight the zone that you are hovering. So here, if we just take a closer look at Virginia, you'll notice to the map, did you see Virginia actually turn a different color? And that's because we were focused on Virginia. Also, I do have the availability to actually sort my punch zones. So here I can actually sort them in ascending order as well as descending order. And then if we actually click on a specific punch zone, it will go directly to that area to give us a brighter or bigger detail. So here, if we click Virginia, you'll notice we go specifically in our map just to the right. It goes specifically in that section. And of course, if I want to get everything back to the global view so that I can see all of my punch zones, in the top left corner, you'll find the globe. So you can just click the globe, and that brings everything back. In the bottom left corner, you'll see a plus, and this is where we can actually add a new punch zone. Here we'll click the plus, and this brings up the ability to create a punch zone. Now, there are really 2 things that we have to consider when we are creating a punch zone. Well, one, just as a side note, just remember to allow your web browser access to your location, because it will sometimes have a pop-up and it will define what your location is. And you do need that in order to create a punch zone. But also know the initial zone displayed, when it opens up, it is going to reflect your current location as long as you have allowed the web browser to do so. But that location is essentially within a 100-meter radius. But As I was about to say, there are really two features that we must consider when we are creating a punch zone. We must define the location and we must define the radius. To establish the location, there are really two possible ways that we can actually do that. One, we can define a specific latitude and longitude. So if we know those coordinates, we can just key those in here. And then, of course, we also have the availability to actually drag our map to any area that we so desire. So by default, as I mentioned before, it is going to bring up my current location. If we wanted to go further in or further out, again, we have that ability. If I want to move my circle, I'm able to do that as well. So again, I can go any location. In fact, I can come back out and I can even expand it here. So again, I can move it any location I so desire. But again, all of that is indeed a possibility. The second part of this is establishing the radius. So once we understand the general location that we want to use, we can also define the radius. So again, is it just going to be within 100 miles? Or we can also use essentially our white dots to define that green zone. So essentially that green zone can be defined. So here, if I go a little bit closer in, I can define my green zone. I can expand it. I can decrease it. And that's one way that I can do it. Or I could essentially just key in a radius that I would like to have covered. So again, one of two ways to do that. Key in the radius amount, or you can use the white dots to define the circle. Also, just as a side note, generally, smartphone GPS devices are accurate within about 30 feet or 10 meters. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and label this. So the punch zone name, just going to call that TA remote. I'll leave the current latitude, longitude items in place. We'll keep the radius as I have predefined. And now we'll click create to the bottom. And now we've actually created a new punch zone. But there are also some other features that we can address within our punch zone. If I go back into my TA remote, this will allow me to actually create a schedule. So here I can actually define or set a specific schedule. Now the purpose of this is we want to restrict employees to a certain time frame and a certain day that they're able to use the XactTime mobile app. So the first item here where it says restrict this punch zone to the specified range of reoccurrence, this is really activating the window for us, because if we uncheck this box, then of course nothing here is activated, which will allow the employee to use the XactTime mobile app at any time with no restrictions. So here I'll check the box again. And now to determine our range of reoccurrence, what if we said we wanted this to be anytime from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then for the starting date, I'll make it today. We'll have it end. Now notice how my ending on is unavailable. It is unavailable because in the reoccurrence settings, the reoccurring item is set at never. And what never is saying is that this actual punch zone schedule is only going to be active on this specific day from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. But if I switch this over to daily, again, I can have this set for today, but then I can say daily, so it goes to each day of the week. If you notice in my preview calendar, it actually has every day listed. Now, of course, if we want to include Sunday and Saturday, in my options area, I do have the opportunity to check the box that includes weekends. So again, once I check the box, you'll notice Sunday and Saturday have now been activated. Also, if we wanted to do something special, Let's say we wanted to do a weekly reoccurring schedule. Maybe you're working with a company where employees don't work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So here I can check off Monday, check off Wednesday, check off Friday. So now when you see my preview calendar, you'll notice only Sundays and Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays are now activated. So ultimately, it really just depends on what the client would like to actually have listed here. But in our case, we are going to keep this on a daily basis. I will not include the weekends. So literally, it is Monday through Friday. We'll click Save. And now you may be thinking, well, which employees will be associated with this particular rule? In the bottom right corner, you also have a members section. If we click the button here that says Set Members, this will allow us to define which employees are actually associated with this rule. You'll also notice there are some toggles across the top. The first toggle actually allows us to see which employees are connected to something specific. So here I can see all of the employees that have anything connected to them. Also, if I want to see groups, because remember in XactTime we do use groups. And the great thing about using groups in XactTime, we can use those same groups for our punch definition of our zones. In other words, if we have a group created and we want all of the employees in that group to be assigned to a specific punch zone, we don't have to go through and assign that individually. We can assign that punch zone to the actual group. And that means everyone who is associated with that group is now following the same rule. And that also means if we have a new employee and we assign that new employee into the group, they are also now abiding by that same rule. I don't have to go and move that new employee into a punch zone rule. We can also sort according to last names, and remember there is a descending order as well as ascending order. The same with first names, again, descending and ascending order. You can also sort by employee number, again, descending as well as ascending order. Now, how do you know which item you've actually used to sort by? If you notice, it's a little shade of blue, so that lets you know exactly what you're using to sort by. And then also just something else that you want to be aware of. In the top left corner, you'll actually see it's called the toggle. If, for example, your toggle will actually check the state for all visible employees or groups they may be defined by according to the search filter. So ultimately, if I wanted to search my name, I could say do a search for Tracy. And again, you're going to see my name listed here. But also in addition to that, if I just want to take everything back to my default settings, I can just click the arrow right next to it and it takes everything back to my default settings. So all of those are great features. Here to the bottom, I am going to go ahead and check off, let's say, Preston's group. We'll click Save here. And now we're all done with our punch zone, meaning we have defined the location, we have defined the radius, we have defined the schedule, and we have defined the members. We can click Save here, and our punch zone is all complete. So now we're headed to our global settings. In the global settings area, remember, as I explained before, the purpose of our global settings, it will allow us to determine general information that is required in order for employees to use XactTime Mobile. Because remember, the employee will use their device and they'll have some things to input directly in the device. Well, the pieces of information that they are going to be using in the device, we are able to send those details directly via email, because ultimately here are the pieces of information that they will be required to use when they install the app. They'll need the service URL, they'll need the company ID, and they'll also require the service key. But the great thing is we can send this via email directly from this section. Ultimately, it pops up an email, and in the email, you can see those same three pieces of information. But here's something new. We also have given you the direct links for that employee. If they're looking at this on their phone, they can go straight to the Google Store, they can go straight to the Apple Store, and they can actually download the app from this very same email. So that's always nice and handy to have it right at your fingertips. In addition to that, we also have some global settings about how we want the system to react. The first box here, enable mobile punching through XactTime mobile app. This box by default is always activated, as the intent is every employee will have access to use the mobile app. But of course, someone will need to provide for them the URL, the company ID, and the service key. But by default, everyone has access to the app. However, the second checkbox says accept punches made with the XactTime mobile app from anywhere when no punch zones are defined. So once the company decides to use punch zones, every employee must be associated with a punch zone. If the company decides not to use a punch zone, then here you'll want to check this box, because what we're saying is there really are no punch zones, so an employee will be able to punch from any geographical location. The third area, attach a supervisor note to punches made with the XactTime mobile app. In the supervisor notes section, if you are familiar with XactTime, you will have the opportunity to see supervisor notes. And if we want to know which type of device the employee actually used, meaning did they use a physical time clock, did they use the web, or if they use the mobile app. If we check this box, when the employee uses the mobile app to create a transaction, in the supervisor note, you'll see a note that literally states punched via XactTime mobile app. In addition to that, attached to that same note, if we want to know which punch zone the employee was connected to when they created the transaction, again, we can check this box, and not only will it tell us that the mobile app was used, it will also define the punch zone that the employee was connected to. The last tab that we have is the punch log. In the punch log, this actually allows us to see the last 100 transactions received via the mobile app. The first box here, the real-time updates, of course, we always encourage you to keep this checked off, but in the event you make a mistake, you uncheck it, no worries. If you uncheck the box, it just simply pauses the screen. So that means any new items you will not be able to instantly see. But again, if you check the box again, it will just automatically update and refresh the screen. Also, you'll notice to the right side, there is a search field. You can use the search field. Let's say if I want to see everything that has actually failed, I can key in the search for fail, and it'll give me all of those transactions that have actually failed. And in most cases, the transactions are going to fail because the employee is outside of a punch zone. Also, if I wanted to see, let's say, all of my successes, I can do that, and it's only going to give me my green check marks, because again, in the status area, this is where you can tell if something has been successful or if it has indeed failed. But you'll notice across the top, basically all of those headers, all of the headers here can be used as filters. We can filter by the date, the time, again, ascending, descending order, whichever you prefer to see. We can also sort by employee name, again, ascending, descending order. We can sort by the actual type of transaction, such as an in punch versus an out punch, or a start of lunch or end of lunch. And of course, we can sort by the status, but we also have the ability to sort by the device. Right now, just remember, the software is capable of using Apple and Android devices at this time only. So again, those are the two types of devices that we are supporting, and that is Apple and Android. And then the last area here, this is actually the location identifier. So if we want to know specifically where the employee was when they created the transaction, again, we can click the icon. It's going to open up a Google map for us, and we're able to see specifically where that employee was located at the time they created that specific punch. Because remember, it could be hours later or days later, but if we want to know where they were when they created that specific punch, we do have the opportunity to view that as well. And that actually takes care of everything that I had to share with you about XactTime mobile administration. If you should require technical assistance, please contact Time America Incorporated at 480-374-7730, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Please note, we here in Arizona do not observe daylight savings time, but we look forward to working with you. Thanks so much.